what is clear nowadays is we all need to be experts in many processes, many approaches and methodologies. You can have a strength in waterfall or program management, but you need to understand when to apply agile. It's all hybrid, and the big transformations, the big capital projects, digital need agility, but not everything. Other parts you need lean startup because you're creating a new business. Other parts will need maybe just Six Sigma and continuous improvement.
Hello and welcome to the Capital Projects podcast. I'm Choma and I'm here to discuss the main challenges of capital projects and project management. And today I'm really honored and happy to host this episode with another icon on project management worldwide. I'm talking about Mr. Antonio Nieto-Rodriguez. Antonio is the author of the Harvard Business Review Project Management Handbook. He's the author of 4 other books. He's the creator of concepts such as the Project Manifesto and the Project Economy. He has been recognized by Thinkers 50 on his research and global impact on modern management. He's also a fellow and former chairman of the Project Management Institute and a member of Marshall Goldsmith 100 Coaches. Antonio is really passionate about the project economy, and his research with CEOs and top executives has valuable insights. You can see from the number of post-its I have here on my book, and that's what I want to learn from him. So I hope you enjoy this conversation, and most importantly, are you ready for the project economy? Antonio, welcome to the Capital Projects podcast. Thank you for getting this space in your agenda to talk to our friends in Brazil.
Thank you for the invitation, Andre. It's really an honor to be in your podcast. I know it's very much listened, so a pleasure and looking forward to our talk.
Fantastic. For the start, tell us a little bit about your background, how you get involved with project management, how did you fall in love with this theme?
So it's my starting, I think like many, we end up in project management by coincidence or by somebody ask you if you want to do a project on site of what you're doing, and you love it because every day is different, not like operational task. But the real passion came when I was fired from a big consulting firm because they didn't appreciate the project management. Senior leaders, the partners, said, well, project management is something tactical. It's not strategic. We cannot charge high fees. Companies are not interested in project management. This is 2004. And I said, how is it possible? I had just finished my MBA in London Business School, a top business school. They were not teaching project management. I think I saw that there was something wrong, right? At senior leadership level, they didn't appreciate. So that's kind of my passion started, also my focus. I'm not focused on project management itself for project managers. I'm just very much focused on senior leaders and how to convince them of the value of project management.
Yeah, we are hearing a lot about the project economy, right, and how it affects the businesses. Can you tell us a little bit more how we can see the scenario changing right now in our economy, with the companies really needing to be more competent in project management in order to stay competitive and innovative?
Sure, I think this is one of the kind of more exciting topics that we have seen in the project management profession since it was created. This is 40, 50 years ago with PMI 69, so 52 years ago. Because, let me explain. So basically, there's 2 trends. One is at macro level. So macro level, governments are expending massive amount of money to recover from the crisis, from the pandemic, and that always leads to more projects. The amount of projects that we're going to see this decade is unforeseen. We've never seen this before, even of the financial crisis and so on. So that's the macro. Interesting, but not my focus. What I think is very interesting for us is the future of work. So when you look at the future of work and how companies are adapting, there's 2 very important trends. Sorry, first, the speed of change, right? The globalization, exponential change that we are going to experience. We are already experiencing. What does this mean? That your products or services don't last too long. Before, you could have a product that will last 10, 15 years, and maybe some competitors will come, and that's not the case. There's very few companies where their products last more than 1 year, right? And so there's a much faster need to innovate, much faster need to implement new ideas into projects and new products and new services, which that leads also to reorganizations and so on. So that's the part which is externally impacting organizations, is how can we produce change, transform faster. One anecdote here is that I talk now to many chief transformation officers, and the whole idea of transformation office was a temporary organization for 2 3 years, and the transformation was over, and the people will dismantle the office and go to other jobs. Transformation offices have become permanent and are being expanded, and so that's the thing of transformation. The other very important point is that with AI and robots taking more space, being more easy to implement, cheaper to implement, they take over most of the operations of a business. And you know as well as I know, Andre, that the business is divided into operations, business as usual, day-to-day activities, and the change part, the projects and the agiles. And if operations is significantly reduced, meaning about 20% of the resources are being just dedicated to operations because the rest is managed by robots. And that means that 80% of the work in a company, organization, already now in some sectors is done through projects. And when I talk about projects, I include programs, I include agile, it's all change management, product development, 80%. So that means that since we're here in project management, the focus of organizations to train and build project management competencies was only for project managers. That's 5% of an organization. Today, the need of organization is we need to train everyone. Everyone is a project manager in a sense. So this is kind of disrupting many of the concepts. I just wrote an article for HBR is the end of the chief operating officer. The end is dead to the rise of the chief project officer. So I think that's what I talk about the project economy, Andre, the macro level, but also the micro and the future of work being project based.
That's fantastic. I read your article, and I was very curious about thinking how this role can evolve, right? From we have so many companies that are based in operations right now in terms of competencies, and as you said, the market is changing so fast, and we are so dependent on good competencies in project management and transformation and innovation in order to stay competitive in this market. And the structures are most of the time focused on operations. So how do you see the change in the profile of the professionals in this kind of organization? How can they come up with this internal transformation in order to transform an organization that is focused on operations to project management? How can they enable the rise of the CTO?
I think there's maybe three areas to focus. First, on the technical part, you know, this big debate that we had for 20 years between are you agile, fan and expert, or waterfall expert? And this has been terrible for the profession. It has not increased the success of projects. So, what I think as part of that technical tooling, what is clear nowadays is we all need to be experts in many processes, many approaches and methodologies. You can have a strength in waterfall or program management, but you need to understand when to apply agile. It's all hybrid, and the big transformations, the big capital projects, need agility, but not everything. Other parts you need lean startup because you're creating a new business. Other parts will need maybe just Six Sigma and continuous improvement. So that's what I see as the next evolution for us is embracing and not well, if you can learn everything perfect, but understand when to use them, these tools, and get the experts to work, but don't say we just do waterfall, we just do agile. This is really wrong. So number one, the technical. Second is more the soft skills and understanding the business. Andrea, I know you've done an MBA in one of the top schools in the world in my city, Madrid, Instituto Empresa. So that type of learning is what we need. People who understand the business, who understand the financials as well, because it's something that we tend to put as a second or third priority. And I see very few project managers understanding, not to make an MPAP or return on investment, but understanding the value that we're bringing for the organization, linked to the strategic goals and priorities, because that's what connects your project with the strategy of the firm, with the strategy of the senior leader. So that business understanding, competition, markets is super important, the value creation. And the third area, which is probably the most difficult one, is the mindset. So project managers have been traditionally people who are given a task and that they need to deliver, and then it's over. I think we need to, and we didn't feel accountability for the results of the project. Just if their time on budget and scope, that's good, but who cares if it makes money? And I think that's the bigger change that we need to make happen to succeed in the project economy. And the role of the chief project officer, it's about taking ownership of creating the value. I say, you project manager, not just delivering anymore. Feel like you're the founder, the entrepreneur, that you would fight for your project like crazy, right? If you need to call the CEO, you call the CEO. If you need to talk to a politician, you call them, and you don't wait for 3 weeks, you do it now. So that kind of mindset of, I'm the owner, I'm going to make this work, and it's not just the time, the cost, and the scope, it's just the value. That's what people want to. So that mindset, which has not been included in the world of project management, I think that's the big game changer. I always say you need to feel like an executive, somebody that delivers value. The chief project officer is not a PMO, which is mostly about reporting, and the chief project officer brings 50% at least of the revenues on a yearly basis of an organization, if not more. And I think there's a big gap there, Andre. But these are the three things I always say we need to focus to deliver.
That's great. You're talking about the project management office, and I just recalled that I reposted your article about the CPO, and one discussion that came up was that, well, we have kind of an executive or a vice president that is the one who's responsible for the PMO. So this means that we already have a CPO. He reports to the board. And as you're saying, it's not the same thing, right? One thing is running the project directory, the project department, and the other one is being responsible, as you said, for most of the revenue of the company the next few
Exactly.
years, right?
Is the PMO bringing benefit? Is the PMO in charge of bringing the revenues? If you're making 100 millions as a business, are the PMO doing 50 millions? Are they accountable and pay for that? No, there's no PMO I know that is accountable. So that's the big difference, where we need to grow and show businesses that projects deliver value, and not just software or products or on a new organization. So I completely agree with what you said, Andre. I think we are completely aligned. The problem is that the PMO world don't see it that yet, but it will come. I'm working with amazing companies who are considering this concept, like L'Oreal, Google, for example, So there's kind of the leading edge organizations are thinking the same way, which is, I think, often more a driver to convince people in our profession.
You said you're talking to so many top executives around the world, and how do you see in those companies that are succeeding in driving this change? What do you see in common among that between this vision among businesses and project management? What can you tell us from your
Well,
experience?
it's not like a priority item in the CEO's agenda per se, in the sense that, okay, we all talk about AI and robots, we're talking about cybersecurity, we're talking about meta, we're talking about sustainability, of course, diversity. So these are kind of the themes. But what is triggering the interest is the pain that their experiences, like people are complaining about the amount of projects. Companies don't know how many projects they're running. I get calls from CEOs saying, "Listen, I don't have a clue how many projects we're doing. I just one company told me we have 1,200 strategic initiatives. I don't know how many projects we have, but so I don't know how to
Strategic.
prioritize them, and I think we have more projects than people, employees. How can we run that? So
Wow.
it's become a hot topic because the exponential growth of projects, where many more people are working and demanded to work in several projects at the same time, not having an idea of what they're delivering. It's kind of the hot point for getting into this topic now, and reaching out to people like me, like you, for some advice, which is very interesting.
I once worked in a company where I was responsible for the PMO, and for a certain year, I had around 300 or between 300 and 350 initiatives and small projects and medium projects for two people,
Wow.
right, during the whole year. And I spent many weeks arguing with the executive that we needed to prioritize, we needed better tools, we needed more people, and they just said, no, you needed to get it done. If you have a lot of projects now, is that because you couldn't deliver it better in the past, so we need to live with it, and let's go like that. So as you said, it becomes impossible. You need to focus the energy, focus the people on the initiatives that are really relevant for the business. Otherwise, we'll be just running around day after day without delivering value, as you said before. Right?
Exactly. I think you completely understand.
You mentioned artificial intelligence, and another debate that I hear a lot is that, well, with the rise of artificial intelligence, project managers will lose its needs, the value for the organization, because the robots will do everything, the robots will plan, the robots will control the projects. How do
I
you
love
see
this
it?
topic. We don't talk enough, so I'm glad that you bring that forward. I was asked one day, how do you see project management in 2030? And I think if you look at many industries and sectors, they have embraced technology years ago. Project management is one of the few areas where we're still managing projects with a software which is 40 years old, which is Excel or MS Project or evolutions to that, the Primavera, the PlanView. These have got evolutions, but these are 40 years old software. So I think we've been maybe afraid or avoiding seeing the disruption or the benefits that technology, this type of, can have in our profession. We are like our comfort, where we need to chase people for making a report that nobody reads, and spending 50% of our time on that. So I'm an advocate for embracing. I invest in small companies. I'm in this space, and one of the more promising is around uh, machine learning for project selection. I believe that you we could have better software based on history to take to to decide much better on which projects we can invest and whether they're ready to be launched or not. So I'm very excited about that. Imagine how much money we would save to organizations. But if we look beyond, let's say 20, 10 years maybe, just an analogy maybe for people who understand. It, you driving cars. So driving cars, before we had the paper maps, remember the Michelin and the Shell, and you would it
Yeah.
just was exciting, but we were doing it with paper, and we were getting to the location, not very effective or efficient, but there was the plan. Afterwards, we got the GPS, where you just put the location and you have the path. You can still change if needed, there. And now we're looking about auto self-driving cars, right? Project management for me, we're still in the paper version of, right? We're in the paper. We still need to move into the more GPS, and that's where I think the first level of artificial intelligence it will help us. I think 60-80% of the current work of project managers, PMOs, should just reduced and done by automation. And why you can't have a report that it's updated alone and red issues already with alternatives, right? The machine should be. And then the self-driving mean maybe we can do projects where almost they do themselves and we focus on the value, on the stakeholder management. So that's kind of my vision on this topic. There's a lot of room for improvement, and it's not negative. We know that the amount of projects is just exponential. We know the future work project based. So if we use technology so that we can focus on the things that matter, we can reach to those levels, Andre, that we were just talking, the chief project officer, delivering value. Because most of our work today will be automated, like with operations. Now everybody runs operations with automation and ERP systems. So I don't think we should be scared. I think we should talk more about that. I'm working on an article for HBR on all this, but I love that you also bring this topic. But lots of room. We're still managing project with paper maps. Imagine.
I love the analogy. I was here recalling a situation that I saw last year. We were working with a client with a huge portfolio for project selection for the next this budget cycle for the next year, and we were discussing 16,000
Wow.
projects to see the priorities and check what will get into the plan for the next year. So we came from 16,000 to 5,000 in the selection, but it took like 4 months with more than 300 people involved and so many forums and discussions and meetings and so on. We had tools, but as you said, it was not bringing that much intelligence into the process. The tools were only helping to maybe organize the work, but not driving to the selection itself. And this is something that if you have quantitative criteria, you should do it with not without needing this amount of work. Of course, it's not something simple to select 5,000 projects, but it shouldn't take so long if you apply technology. You can do it a lot better.
Exactly.
In your research, you show us that we are still not delivering the value for like 50% or more of the projects to our companies. In your vision, where are we failing? Where are we still failing by? We know a lot about project management. You said, waterfall or agile. So many people that now have certifications, and we are still not delivering the value most of the time. Uh, where do you see the gaps?
Well, I think this is another topic that we don't talk enough. We're afraid of saying, okay, all further. And again, these researches are qualitative. No, it's very. I think there's a professor in Oxford who has done quite some academic research on mega projects. Ben. But other than that, if you look at McKinsey, HBR, they do sort of, they have data, but it's not very thorough. But anyway, the results are always pretty similar on 60, 70%, 80% of projects, strategic initiatives fail. And we never took that serious. I'm realizing I was chairman of PMI. I was in the board for 6 years, and it never came to my mind to think about what can we do then? What can we do to solve this? I was more inclined in the senior leadership aspect, so I launched the Brightline initiative, which then we hired Ricardo Vargas to lead it. But for me, was the Brightline. It's kind of mm, the area I wanted to develop for PMI, so I did that as a chairman. But I realized how little we speak in PMI or in the profession of those failure rates and what can we do to solve that. And the impact could be huge. But try to answer your question, Andre. I group this three in three areas when you look from an organization perspective. Project failure comes by applying wrong methods, the project management part, the technical, the competencies that we have that kind of focus on agile or waterfall and not embracing. So the project management part has to evolve. That's why I talk about reinventing project management. Um, that's not the important part. 30-40% of the reasons of project failure come there. Another 30% or so 40 comes from senior leaders who have no clue about their role, the important role, crucial role they play sponsoring projects. Not only that, it's also about prioritizing projects, selecting projects, making sure that there's not too many projects, that there's enough capacity to deliver. There's focus. So that senior leader role is the second cost. The third cost is around organization. It's around the structures, the hierarchies, the cultures, rewards, and so on, where you also know that in a hierarchical structure it's impossible to run projects. They're always late. So moving into a more agile project driven structure. Lego, for example, people who are listening, Lego is an amazing case where they really shifted from hierarchical to product project based work, and they have this agility of launching things very quickly. So there's three elements: the project management, the senior leaders, the organization, culture, metrics, all that. The thing that I want to share, Andre, which is something that I do when I teach, and I think that's where the project management, I think we can cope with that. We can develop, we can grow. And for the other tools, as project manager myself or PMO director, I always thought or hoped that a senior leader will understand what their role was as project sponsor. I wish that they would go for a training, right? But after 25 years, I realized that never
Right.
happens. They will never go to a training. They will never. So what I say now, and it's back to that mindset that we need to have, is saying, I train the senior leaders. I go and say, listen, my role is to drive this project. You are a main player, senior leader, ex-sponsor, CEO. This is what I expect from you. This is what I need from you to make this project. You need to be accessible. You need to get involved. You need to dedicate time. You need to get resources, quick decisions when I need it. So I go and get these people. So I managed to get a 30% more chances of succeeding because I get the senior leader involved. It's not a wish, it's not a hope anymore. I'm taking care. The same for the organization. I know that if I have dedicated resources, attention, as quick decision making, agile approaches to many things, I can deliver projects better. So I would influence the organization the same way. So it's a outwards looking approach to managing projects, right? I was focused on influencing these elements, and that's how we can reach much better results. I hope it makes sense.
Sure, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. This is something we know that is so critical for project success. We Many times we receive the task as project managers and say, you need to do that. And then you don't get more time from your sponsor, from your executive. You don't have support. You can't get the resources you need, and this creates this huge gap. As you said in the beginning, sometimes we see the executives seeing project management as a tactical or operational task, and they don't get involved as much as needed. And as project managers, we also are not well trained how to approach the executives. And as you said, talk to executive. I need this, I need that, but not only in the means of give me the resources, but talking the language of the business and showing how important it is to get the right tools and processes and people in place for delivering the value that the organization is expecting. What I see a lot, and bringing something that I got from your book, you talk about the experience from BioNTech in developing the vaccine for COVID. Also mentioned the shortened cycle times for the construction of hospitals in China. You know that here in Brazil, we have two companies that work together. One is called Brasil ao Cubo, another one is Tec Verde. You work with off-site construction. And right in the beginning of the pandemic, they came up joining forces to build hospitals in less than
Incredible.
40 days. And it was not temporary structures, it was definitive structures. And they came up from the idea to design in like three
Hmm.
days, 4 days, and build in another 30
That's a few.
right away.
Great.
So
Amazing.
yeah, it's a fantastic use of
Hmm.
technology, the building information modeling. Uh, there was no hierarchy, so the PMs and the engineers and everyone inside the company got together to come up with the solution. The clients and or the sponsors, the executive, uh, getting all the resources they needed and getting all the information they needed, because we know that many times during project planning, one of the hardest thing to get is the information at the right time, so the decisions were made really quick, and they could move from design to off-site construction and then building on site in 34, 36 days, hospitals for like 100 people each one. So it really shows how you can apply this mindset that you are saying. The sponsors get involved, and having their time used at the best way possible. You don't expect to wait for 3, 4 weeks for a next meeting to the sponsor to come up with the problem, get to a solution, and then you can move more. You can move quickly to get the results that you need. So when I read it, I thought it was fantastic, and we are seeing here in Brazil too, in a sector that is not prone to technology and agility, which is construction.
Exactly.
So it shows how we can increase the value we deliver as project managers.
Nice to hear. I love this story.
And talking about the project managers, um, I'm here, I'm working with my projects, I'm PMI certified. How can I evolve in my role, as you said, with all this view to bringing more value, to trying to get the best resources, looking for to deliver, as I said, more value to the strategic initiatives in my company? How can I evolve as a professional inside this project economy?
Well, I think it's key to work on the topics we discussed here, Andre. I think it's we talk about those uh, expanding the tools and methods and knowledge around leading program change, embracing if you're more from the waterfall understanding, Scrum, Agile, Safe, or getting some of their. I think they have good tools. You try to think about how to use them or expand your knowledge about them. change management, product development. All these type of things are very important. Also, I cover that in my book is simplification. So I work and propose the project canvas as a way to avoid spending hours reporting and leading the discussion to what really matters. So simplifying what we use to communicate with stakeholders and the team, that helps a lot. Then we talk about that. Not everybody can afford or has the time to go for an MBA, but what you've done, Andrea, building that additional very solid background on organization, business strategy, finance. This is, I think, what makes you a bit like a mini CEO. You understand how an organization works. Maybe you don't have the experience, but you know what's important and how it should be done. And then we talk about the mindset, and this is, like you said, we're not used to challenge senior leaders, and depends on the culture of your company. It can be seen very bad that you say, "Hey, listen, CEO, I need you," or yeah. So, but I think people should try it. I always say, "Yeah, okay, I understand. I'm coming from the same, but try it, and you will be surprised. 90% of the time, senior leaders appreciate that you challenge them and come up with the idea and tell them that they see that you care a lot about the project. They see that you are part of yeah, their strategy to make a better company. So really, I would recommend that piece, which is not so difficult, is try out and see, why do I need the senior leader? I'll go and talk to them and ask them for their support.
And can I dream of becoming CEO in my company by not coming from the financial background or business administrations? Do you see project managers getting to the top of the organizations with the future scenario as we discussed here today?
Absolutely. I think, again, when the focus of organizations shifts to transformation more and more in project-based work, I think the opportunity, so far it has been difficult. Most of the CEO comes from the operational background, financial background, sales. But I know we're talking about transformation more often project-based. Yes, absolutely. But in order to be that next CEO, you need to behave and think and have those competencies, which we do have partially. But is, do you see yourself somebody who can grow the business, who can deliver new value? And again, that's once you do that, then yes, of course, there's big chance. I believe that we are going to be coming, seeing more and more change, project transformation, people coming into CA jobs in the next 10, 20 years.
Antonio, and with all this scenario, how do you see project management evolve in the next 10, 15, 20 years? Which piece of advices you can leave to us here?
Well, I think we cover really a great points in this talk, Andre. So it's maybe more a summary. I think first of all, the project economy is the most exciting uh, time for project managers, project management professions since the last 50 years. So we are in the spotlight, and this is always good, but there's a risk also of not delivering. But this is in our hands. Second, I think we need to develop further our competencies or toolbox, embracing different methodologies, understanding better the business, and then having that executive mindset, entrepreneur mindset, to be able to challenge whoever, just to make sure that they support your project. Third, we covered also the AI and the future of project management and new technologies. And I think on the short term, we need to embrace much more this space. In the long term, I do see self-driving projects, hopefully a bit long in time, but and that will allow us to do much more work as well. Doesn't mean we'll have less. But so I think it's just one of the areas which is more exciting. I couldn't think about uh, other areas professionally, HR, finance, operations. Project management is the place to be. So it's up to us to make it happen. But thank you, Andre. It was a pleasure, and I look forward to listening to the comments and the feedback of the podcast.
As Antonio said, I think it's clear that our profession is undergoing a major change, right? We need to see as project managers, portfolio managers, or PMOs, how can we add more value to our company, because project management will become even more fundamental for executing the strategy in every company, in every industry. So, are we ready for this? And are we ready to educate our sponsors to be on their side executing the strategy? I hope you really enjoyed this episode. We have more content in English here in the Capital Projects podcast coming soon. And I also want to thank you for your time and your interest, because this week we just reached 52 countries with this show. That's twice the number we had just 6 months ago. So I hope to see you back here in the future. Stay tuned, follow our channel, and I wish you a huge success in your projects. Are you ready for the project economy? Just let me know. Post a comment here and we'll see. Okay? Hope to see you back here in the next episode of the Capital Projects Podcast.